So good morning everyone. Today we will discuss about DNS. It's a domain name system or domain name service, whatever you call it as. So DNS. What is meant by DNS? Why we need to use this? So as I told you, every server or anything. Okay. So let's say you have one server here, and this server having one IP address, and inside this server you hosted one application. Okay, you hosted one application. It could be anything. It could be Flipkart or Amazon or anything. You can call it as. Okay, so you hosted this application. Now, if you want to browse that application from the internet, okay, if you want to browse that application from the internet, you need that IP address of the server. Then only from internet you will route your traffic to the server. Okay, so from the internet, if you want to reach flipkart.com, so, or Flipkart application, you must have the server IP address. As I explained earlier, every device in the internet world or in the computer world should communicate with the help of IP address only. So this server having one IP address, for example, it must be a public IP, not private IP. Okay, because if it is private IP, it can't be resolved in the internet. Public IP only resolves in the internet. For example, the public IP is 23.23.23.23. For example, if you consider. So if people from the internet want to browse Flipkart, they need to type an address of 23.23.23.23. Then only they can reach to this place. Then only they can reach to this place. Okay, it's fine. Now, just understand how many people will remember the IP addresses. The same consider, if you consider a classic example is mobile. For example, everybody utilizing the mobile and every mobile having certain mobile number. So if you want to establish a communication between one mobile to another mobile, this mobile will recognize another mobile with the help of mobile number only. With the help of mobile number only. So every mobile will have one mobile number. Okay. So is it really difficult to remember all the mobile numbers? Okay. So that is the reason what we are doing on our mobiles. So we have a phone book or contact book in our mobile. What it exactly does, it will map your mobile number with the respective name you have given, because it would be a bit difficult to remember mobile number, but it would be easy to remember the name. Okay, so what you are doing, you are mapping the mobile number with name so that you can easily remember that name. So you can call to that name in the back end. This mobile try to resolve the mobile number associated with that name, and it will initiate a call to that respective mobile number. It's a middle mechanism where it is allowing you to map name with mobile number, so that when you call to the name, it will resolve the backend mobile number and it will try to reach out that respective mobile number. The same concept applies in the DNS also. Like your contact book, like your phone book, in the internet world, there is a concept of DNS. There is a concept of DNS. What exactly the DNS will do? For example, here we have a DNS that is called domain name service. Okay, this is called DNS server. Okay. Now, what exactly it does the DNS server? Here, it will allow us to map an IP address with a name. Okay. For example, there is a name called www.fp.com, and you are assigning this with 23.23.23.23. So now in this scenario, if people from the internet, when they try to browse www.fp.com, okay, initially the internet will route that request to the this DNS server, and from the DNS server it will resolve what is the IP address associated to this www.fp.com, and with that IP address it will establish a request so that it will reach that request, it will reach the request to the server. So this is how the DNS will work. And in the DNS, if you observe, I have provided one name called www.fp.com. See, This DNS server can be unique servers which will be available for all the users. I cannot go blindly and I cannot put my IP address to this name because this name can be used by many people. Okay, so it must be unique. It must be unique. Otherwise, DNS servers will get confused. You go and you map 23.23.23, and someone will come and someone also wants to host the same website. And for that, also, there is a different IP from their end. So then DNS server will confuse which IP address I need to send for this hostname. That is the reason this DNS have certain restrictions. This DNS have certain restrictions. That is, if you want to allow or if you want to map one IP address along with one host name or one name, then you need to register at the DNS server. So for this DNS concept, there are many providers in the market. One is GoDaddy and GeoTrust. So there are OpenSSL. There are many providers available in the market who will offer the domain names. We will offer the domain names. This domain name you need to purchase. You need to purchase. So I want to host one application and I want one name called www.fp.com. Just verify this name is available or somebody is using. If somebody is using, it will give you two options. Either you can contact that person who is utilizing this website and ask him, he will sell that website, or else you can choose alternate name. Okay, this is the suggestion provided by the DNS server people. It could be GoDaddy people or GeoTrust people or any provider you can go. Okay, you need to purchase that particular domain name from their end so that they will give you one domain name and they will give you one place to map your IP address along with your domain name. So you need to register to that and you need to log into the DNS server place who is offered by the provider, and you just need to place your IP address along with your domain name. So if you consider the same, in the DNS server, as I told you, you need to purchase one domain name and you need to map your IP address with that domain name. So if you observe the domain names here, the last part you need to call it as .com. So if you observe, there are many websites with .com or .org or .gov or .in or anything. So these are called naming servers. These are called naming servers. So this can be resolved in the DNS itself. You can utilize, you can choose if you want your website with www.fp.com or fp.org or gov will not give. This is for government. This is reserved for the government websites. And IN for India. Okay. So this way, while purchasing your domain name, you need to choose the respective naming server where you want to host your website. It is for www.fp.com or fp.org or fp.in. It's up to you. You need to select the respective one. It's absolutely fine. So this scenario, which I told you for single case, where if you want to map your IP address with name, IP address with name, so that if somebody browses www.fp.com, here it will resolve the IP address behind this www.fp.com and it will forward that request to 23.23.23. So this part of the concept or this way of mapping a domain name with IP address is called a record. It's called a record, means address record in the DNS. So you need to map a record. If you open the a record, it will give you two fields. One is IP name, IP address, and second one is your host name. Just add your IP address in the respective place and host name in the respective place. That we used to call it as address record. And there are some provisions, there are some requirements. For example, currently there is a website called www.fp.com. If you consider the Flipkart scenario only, initially the Flipkart was founded by the letsbuy.com. So this is the website initially who founded the Flipkart, letsbuy.com. And people used to purchase things using letsbuy.com. Now, all of a sudden, this letsbuy.com is acquired by the Flipkart. Letsbuy.com is acquired by the Flipkart. That is called www.fp.com. Now, all of a sudden, if I change my host name here with www.fp.com instead of letsbuy.com, people won't know the name, right? It is not that much market, and people won't know. It said letsbuy.com is acquired by the fp.com, or I need to browse with fp.com only, or I need to browse with letsbuy.com only. People have some confusion, and they don't want to lose the market. They don't want to lose the market. In that scenario, also, in the DNS server, there is a mechanism. Okay, people are using www.fp.com, right? Fine. If somebody comes and somebody acquires this Flipkart, and that is called www.xyz.com. For example, if you consider xyz.com. So if you directly come and if you replace www.fp.com with www.xyz.com, people won't know. People still browse for www.fp.com only. Many people won't know it is acquired by the XYZ. Okay, in that scenario, if they don't want to lose the market, what they will do, they will keep www.fp.com only. In addition to that, there is one more concept in the DNS that is called canonical name. Okay, that is called canonical name or CNAME record. What it will do, it will map a domain name with another domain name that is called www.fp.com with www.xyz.com, and here they will update that IP address with www.xyz.com, and they will remove the fp.com from here. Now what it will do, if you consider the same scenario, people will start browsing www.fp.com. It will reaches to the DNS server. Anyway, it has CNAME. It will resolve the hostname, exact hostname. Request is coming to the fp.com, but he must replace this fp.com with xyz.com. This xyz.com anyway having IP address, so it takes this IP address and it will reach out to the server. So this is the concept of CNAME. Here in the DNS, if you want, you can map your IP address with host name, or host name with IP address, or host name with another host name. So there are many records available in the DNS concepts. Those are A record and triple A record. This record is this triple A record or 4AS records will be used to map an IPv6 address with hostname. So what is meant by this IPv6 address, that I will explain a bit later. So you have two type of address. This is called IPv4 address, and one more address is called IPv6 address. It will be like 6 digits like this. It has the IP address. It looks like this. Okay, as I explained earlier, right? If you have IPv4, there is a problem of exhaustion. That is the reason they have new concept of IPv6 addresses. So it has many more probabilities. It has many more IP addresses can get. That is the reason we have IPv6 address also. But still, people are using IPv4 only. We are not fully migrated to the IPv6 at the moment. But still, they are offering IPv6 along with IPv4. It's up to you. You can utilize IPv6 or IPv4. It's up to you. But many people still are rely on IPv4 addresses only. Now come back to the topic. So if you have a record, that is to map IPv6 address with host name. And as I told you, we have a CNAME, and we have CNAME record or canonical name record, and we have MX, mail exchange server, or you have PTR, or you have a text record, TXT. So there are many kind of records available in DNS. Everybody has in its own purpose. Like a record, it will map your host name with IP address, or triple A record, it will match your IPv6 address with host name. With the help of CNAME, you can map one host name to another host name. Where MX record is for mail server, where if you want to map your mail server, you can map in the MX record. PTR record is for reverse lookup. For host name, they will map IP address for reverse lookups. And for text record, if you want to show any text on the website, or information related to that website, that you can store it in the TXT record. Likewise, there are many records. Whoever having any required functionality, they can utilize that required functionality offered by the DNS server. So this is about the basic DNS part. Okay. So as we discussed about the DNS right now, now we'll talk about the networking part again. Okay. For example, if you consider the same scenario which I explained you. Okay. So this is your internet, and this is your DNS, and you have one environment where you hosted your all the services. Like you have virtual machines, 10 virtual machines, I can say. Okay. Now every mission requires one IP address. Every mission requires one IP address. So if you consider the same concept, so if I use each mission public IP address, so each mission is publicly available. Each mission is publicly available. But I don't want my missions to be publicly available or publicly exposable. I want only one particular mission can be exposable to the public, but remaining all machines should be in private only. I don't want to expose them to the public. So how you can do that? How you can separate machines with private and machines with public? So how you can establish your own network, and there how you can create the services, and how you assign IP address from your own network which you created. Okay, that we'll see. For example, if you consider, there is one community. There is one community. Okay, and this community is having the name called XYZ community. Okay, for example, if you consider now this XYZ community having 15 houses. This XYZ community having 15 houses. If you consider 15 houses from the XYZ community, what are the numbers which I designed or I planned is, for example, for XYZ community, I decided to utilize numbers from 1 to 20. I decided to utilize numbers from 1 to 20. So what I will do, I decided to utilize 20 numbers. I will start assigning numbers. This is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3, and this is number 4, and this is number 5, and this is number 6, and this is number 7, and this is number 8. So for now, in my community, I have created or I have constructed 8 houses, and I have given 8 numbers, and remaining 12 numbers, I'll keep it is for reserved purpose. I'll keep it is for reserved purpose. In future, if you want to create, I will utilize from the same numbers. So these are the numbers, or this is we used to call it as a range. This is your network range, where you need to consider what are the things you are going to create now and what are the things you are going to be created in future. By combining all them, you need to design your range. You need to design your range. Okay, then it's fine. Now coming back to another community, there is one more community, and this community's name is ABC community. So ABC community. This ABC community also having numbers of 1 to 20. This ABC community also having numbers of 1 to 20. And they also started constructing the homes. So they have constructed 3 homes at the moment. Okay. Now I am assigning the names number 1, number 2, and number 3. So if you observe the house numbers here, XYZ community is having house number with 1. ABC community is also having house number with 1. It is ABC community's network. It is XYZ community's network. But from the internet, if you want to reach house number 1 directly, it will not reach. From the internet, if you want to reach house number 1, it will not go, because many organizations having this IP address, or many communities having this house numbers. How it go? So private IP address cannot be resolved in the internet. This is for reusable purpose, as I told. Then how it can reach from the internet? So here, if you observe, there is a unique name called XYZ community. So this XYZ community, I can say it could be a public IP address, which is unique across the globe. Okay. Now what you need to do? I need to go to the house number 1 of XYZ community. Then it will reach. Then it will comes to XYZ community, and XYZ community knows what is house number 1. Okay. Similarly, if you consider the same example for ABC community, if you come to the ABC community and you will ask, I need to go for house number 1. It knows. ABC community knows where is house number 1, but internet not knows where is house number 1. Internet only knows with XYZ community or ABC community. That is unique across the globe. Those are public IPs. So this 1 to 20, I am telling you, this is called a network. This network you need to establish with private IP addresses, and you need to call that network with the help of public IP. Okay, so same concept applies for every organization. So every organizations have dedicated IP addresses, public IP address, and dedicated virtual networks. or private networks created, and each private network consists of their own devices. Similarly, same number of IPs you may see in another company and an organization utilizes, but that IP address will be resolved with these public IP addresses only. So once the request enter into their environment, then only it will resolve the IP address. From the internet, it directly won't resolve this IP address. Okay, so this is the concept of networking. Everybody utilizes their own network. For if you observe the boundary here, they is to add additional securities for this network. For example, if you have a community like this, what you will establish for this community, you have to establish or you have to construct one boundary wall. Why we need to construct the boundary wall? For the safety purpose. Similarly, in virtual networks or in the internet computer world, this wall we used to call it as firewall. This wall we used to call it as firewall. What is the purpose of firewall? Purpose of firewall is to protect your network. To protect your network, to restrict the incoming request. So if you construct the wall like this, nobody is allowed to entry, right? Nobody is allowed to entry. To prevent that, to prevent unrecognized persons or unexpected persons to enter into your area, you constructed one wall. Similarly, for in virtual network also, you don't want to allow all the requests, you don't want to allow the suspicious requests and all these things. That is why you established one mechanism called firewall. So in this firewall, you have certain rules defined. In these rules, you can specify. So if the request coming from the specific IP, then only allow. Or request is coming from specific location, then only allow. So certain rules you can specify. Then only if it satisfies that rules, then only the request will be allowed to the firewall. Same from the community also. Here we have a security mechanisms implemented. There is one security gate. This security gate having records. Okay, you are belongs to house number 1. Okay, then it will allow. You are belongs to house number 2, then it will allow. You are belongs to house number 3, then only it will allow. Otherwise, no, you are not supposed to enter into this environment. Just go back, it will deny. The same concept applied in the network also. Here also we have a firewall. There you can implement certain rules to restrict the traffic or to restrict the request. Now, if you consider the numbers or range which I talked here, like 1 to 20, this is a simple number. That's why you kept it range as 1 to 20. But if you consider same in the IP terminology, what I told you, the IP address will start with 0.0.0.0 to 255.255.255.255. So this is what the basic limited range of the IP addresses. Out of these IP addresses, what are the IP addresses reserved to utilize for the virtual network purpose? Those are called private IP addresses. We have again explained about class A and class B and class C IP addresses. And if you consider class A IP addresses, this class A contains range with 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. So if you convert this as a mask, if you observe, the first letter only constant and remaining three are varying. The first set is for octet number 8. Second set is for octet number 8. Third set is for octet number 8. Fourth set is octet number 8. Out of 4 8s, how many 8s are constant? Only first 8 is constant. So that's why I will denote this range mask as 8. So what is meant by this 8? Out of these 4 digits, only the first digit is constant. 8 belongs to the first one. The first digit is constant. So if we keep it as 16, then 8 means first digit and next 8 means second digit. The 2 digits were constant. The remaining 2 digits will vary. So this way you can define your range. So the available range for the private IP addresses are starting with 10. This is class A. Anyway, this 8 means only first digit is constant. Remaining 3 digits will vary. We have a large number of IP addresses available. So basically, these IP addresses will be utilized by the large organizations. Class A IP addresses. There are crores of IPs available. Okay. So, and you know how to calculate this formula. 2 to the power of 32 minus 8, 2 to the power of 24. It has a many huge number of IP addresses available for class A. There are certain kind of organizations, a medium-sized organization, which require very less number of IPs compared with large number of organizations. Then they'll go for class B IP addresses. That is called 172 dot 16 dot 0 dot 0 to 172 dot 31 dot or 0 dot 0. Or you can simply you can simply rename or define the range like 172 dot 116 dot slash call 16, you can call it as. It's not 16 actually, because if it is 0, you can consider as 16, but somehow you can write it as 16 or 15, you can write it. So that the range will start from 172.16, and then the last digit will vary from 0 to 255, and this digit will vary from 0 to 255. So this way you can choose which type of class you need to use for the IP addresses. Now, if you consider same scenario here, like I reserved the IP address from 1 to 20, similarly, I need to reserve the private IP address here. So similarly, for your network, if you want to create, you need to reserve your IP addresses here. Like I want to create with 16, for example. So my range is, it will vary from 10 dot 0 dot 0 dot 0 to 10 dot 0 dot 255 dot 255. So this is my network range. So whatever the resources I am creating within this network, that resources will assign the IP address from this range only. So similarly, if you want to reserve for other also, you can reserve. So this is the way you need to define your IP address range. This we used to call in the internet terminology or network terminology is CIDR block. Okay, CIDR blocks, CIDR blocks, we used to call it as. This CIDR block, you need to reserve the address range or address space, any name you can call it as. So you need to reserve your network range, and within that network range only, you need to create your resources and assign the IP address from this range only. Okay, so I created network like this, but I cannot come and I cannot assign the IP address as 172.34 dot something like that, because that is not in this range. So although you have the house numbers defined as 1 to 20, so will you assign the house number as 31? No, right? The available house numbers are 1 to 20 only. So you need to assign the house numbers within 1 to 20 only. Similarly, in the in the virtual network also, whatever the resource you are creating under the specific network, you need to assign the IP address resolved from the specific range, or it must be within the range only. So that is the concept of virtual network. This way to call it as a virtual network. Okay, so now we know what is meant by virtual network. For example, I'm creating one virtual network here. I'm creating one virtual network here. So that virtual network is VNet 1. And what is the IP address for that? What is the IP range for that virtual network if you want to create? For example, I'm considering the range as 10 dot 0 dot 0 dot 0 slash 16. So what is the range for this 0.016? 16 means first two letters will be constant and remaining two letters will be vary from 0 to 255. So similarly here the range is first two letters will be constant, remaining digits will be vary from 255 to 255. This is my range. So this is why I designed my VNet. It's absolutely fine. Now these many IP addresses we have. For example, I have created one virtual machine here directly. For example, I'm creating one server or one VM or anything. For example, now I need to I need to provide one IP address from this. For example, I'm giving one IP address as 10.0.0.1. Right? This is resides under this range only. So I'm giving like this. Likewise, I have created one more VM. I have created one more storage account. I have created one more app services. Okay. For example, I have created VM, and this I created VM2, and this I created app service here, and here I created one storage. Okay. So for everything, you need to assign the IP addresses. For example, 10.0.0.2 and 10.0.0.3 and 10.0.0.0.4. If you want, you can assign like this, but there is one problem. What is the problem? Okay. Before explaining this, I'll tell you a classic example. For example, there is a one school. In one school, there is a school. In one school, there is a batch, SSC batch. Right? There is a 10th class batch, for example. So this 10th class batch consists of 200 people. 200 people. So the numbers would be 1 to 200, for example. Now, if we consider this 1 to 200 people, to manage this 1 to 200 people is bit risky because it's bit risky. So you cannot form all the guidelines to 1 to 200 people, or you cannot train 1 to 200 people in a single manner because the school will focus on the top rankers. For that, they used to arrange special classes. So they used to identify the people who are studying with less knowledge or less marks. So they used to focus on them to pass them. And who are the top members? They used to gain extra focus over there so that they will go for the ranks. So similarly, what they will do, out of 1 to 200, they will filter numbers called 1 to 50. And for them, they used to arrange some special classes. The people from 51 to 100, they used to arrange one more special classes. And the people from 101 to 150, they will treat in some other way. And people from 151 to 200, they will treat in some other way. But altogether, all people are belongs to 10th class only. All people all belongs to the 10th class only. So what I did here, the same 10th class people 1 to 200, I further split it into multiple subparts. Multiple subparts. These subparts also reside in the same range, that is 1 to 200 only. This 1 to 200, I further split it into multiple parts. Those are also within the same range. Now I can easy to manage. If I want to control, I can control these 50 members. If I want to control, I can control this one. If I want to control, I can control this part and this part too. So for your management purpose, for your regular security implementations or whatever you can say, or improvement or efficiency or anything, for you further define or you further split your entire class into multiple sub things. Okay, the similar concept applies here. It would be a bit difficult to manage entire VNet. Okay, that is the reason what you are doing. You further splitting your network into multiple subnets. That concept we used to call it as subnet. Okay. So similarly here, what I did, we'll go back the same. Instead of creating the resources directly into the VNet, the same VNet I further splitted into multiple subnets. Multiple subnet. This is called subnet 1 and this is called subnet 2. So you said you are splitting the VNet. So then how you will form some more ranges from this VNet? Just simple. For example, this 10.0.0.0.16 means the first two digits will constant and remaining two digits will vary. So your subnet also consists of 10.10, 10.0. This is fixed. The first two digits will fixed. And as I said, the remaining two digits will vary up to 0 to 255. Now what I will keep, I'll keep it as number 1 and 0 is 24. What it would be? If you see the 24, first 8, first 8, second 8, third 8. The three digits will be constant. 10, 0, 1. Out of this, 10.0 is already there in your parent virtual network, that is which is fixed. That means this one is coming within this range only, within this range only. So this way you need to split your VNet into the subnet. If you consider it as a 10.0.1.0/24, the first three digits will constant, last digit will vary from 0 to 255. And if you observe this range, 10.0.1.0 to 10.0.1.255. So it will be with 10.0.1.0 to 255, it will vary. If you observe this range, this is there within this only. The first two digits 10.0 is constant. Yes, 10.0 is constant. And it must be in between 0 to this 255 and 0 to this 255. This must be within this range. And similarly, we can configure here also 10.0.0.2.0/24. Okay, so it should be with 10.0.2.0 to 10.0.2.255. So the last digit will vary because 24 means first three digits will be constant. Last digit will vary from 0 to 255. Similarly, it will be 0 to 255. If you observe, if you compare this with the parent, so 10.0 is already there, 10.0. Whatever the IP addresses which are changing from 2.0 to 2.25, those are reside under the same VNet. Okay, so this way you can further split your VNet into multiple subnets. And here you can create your resources. For example, if you want to create a VM here, now you can assign IP address from this range. This range is like 10.0.1.1 you can give, and 2 you can give 10.0.1.2 up to 10.0.1.255. So this is the IP addresses you need to use for the subnets or resources created under this subnet. Similarly, for here also 10.0.2.1, 2.2, 2.3 up to 2.255, you can give it under subnet 2. Likewise, you can create any number of subnets from this VNet.